nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Boston's mayor is under fire for a holiday hiccup. Michelle Wu reportedly sent an invitation for her holiday party exclusively attended for electeds of color. It was mistakenly distributed to all members of the Boston City Council by an aide. Approximately 15 minutes later, the aide, Denise DeSantos, sent a follow-up email and apologized for the earlier message about the holiday party scheduled for the next day, clarifying that the white councilors were not meant to receive an invitation.
The revelation is receiving harsh backlash online. Libs of TikTok wrote on X, the mayor of Boston invited only electeds of color to a holiday party. The
Boston's mayor is under fire for a holiday hiccup. Michelle Wu reportedly sent an invitation for her holiday party exclusively attended for electeds of color. It was mistakenly distributed to all members of the Boston City Council by an aide. Approximately 15 minutes later, the aide, Denise DeSantos, sent a follow-up email and apologized for the earlier message about the holiday party scheduled for the next day, clarifying that the white councilors were not meant to receive an invitation.
The revelation is receiving harsh backlash online. Libs of TikTok wrote on X, the mayor of Boston invited only electeds of color to a holiday party. The email was mistakenly sent to all city council members, including the white ones. One white council member called it divisive. The party is still scheduled to take place, and only black council members were invited. Now, Boston City Council is comprised of 6 minority members and 7 white members. Seems like, why can't they just have you can have a party to celebrate the strides people of color have made in all facets of life, including being elected to Congress, that like everyone can attend.
Okay. I'm sure they'll take that under advisement. And we should never have any specific parties or events to celebrate any discrete groups. Not veterans, not people with physical impairments, not people who are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, not a Jewish celebration, not any discrete groups should ever have separate holiday parties or events in addition to the ones that are holistically celebrated.
Do you think a whites-only holiday party would generate some kind of backlash? I suspect that it would.
I think a Hanukkah event that had only white people, or a Celtic event that only...
creed-based events, not based on skin color.
We live in a country that has created a legal tiered hierarchy of a racist de jure system for the majority of the time that the country has existed. Only since my parents have been alive has that de jure system of segregation and apartheid with different laws for different people because of how they look been ended. And as a consequence, a lot of social and economic barriers still exist for people who are from those historically marginalized groups. Not because we came to America and decided we wanted to be different, because the laws of this country told us that we were. How have we now formed community groups, solidarity groups, legal advocacy groups, and social groups to advocate for our equality? And sometimes members of those groups who are still advocating in many instances for substantive equality, because again, those barriers only fell very recently, want to celebrate those accomplishments and their own accomplishments as a discrete group. Obviously, people like the Libs of TikTok account and other white groups feel very differently about that, but I can't help but observe that the ire seems to only be articulated when certain kinds of people get together, when those people are diverse racially as opposed to other discrete ethnic groups. We see this every year when there are complaints about a Caribbean Day parade, but not the violence and destruction that often comes around a St. Patrick's Day parade, because everybody drinks and everybody gets destructive around these parade dates. And it's hard for me to take those kinds of complaints seriously. If people really believe that Michelle Wu is a racist who treats white people badly, and is discriminating against them, they should take those charges very seriously and provide evidence of it and investigate it, but not make a mockery of a holiday party meant to celebrate the accomplishments of minorities in order to do so.
But as I just said, I don't have any opposition to a themed event that celebrates the accomplishments of minorities or calls attention to the specific plight or history of a minority group. But doing it exclusively just for people of a certain skin color strikes a lot of people as a betrayal of the very norm we're trying to get to, where people aren't treated differently based on that reality.
Okay.
Okay, well, anyway.
Robbie, you know if they had a women's group.
To where people aren't treated differently based on that reality.
Okay.
Okay, well, anyway.
Robbie, you know if they had a women's group, no one would have complained. If they had emailed all of the women on the council and said we're having a ladies' holiday party, nobody would have complained.
Well, there are recognized differences between men and women. Men and women are different. Black people and white people are not.
Well, tell that to the government as of my mother's 5th birthday.
Okay, we're working to address those things. I mean, the legal discrimination that still exists in our society is in university campuses against white and Asian people, which we're trying to adjudicate at the highest levels of the Supreme Court to stop them from being discriminated against in the hiring and admissions practices.
Is your argument that the real racism in America is against white and Asian people at college universities, and there's nowhere else that people should be concerned about?
Racism, to the extent it's legalized and enshrined in our practices, is yes, substantially against Asian people.
All right. Well, that's a good reason for us to really go after Michelle Wu.
I don't. You just don't think this? Do you don't think this was a bad idea? You don't think this is an elected official? It's not embarrassing for her that. I mean, it's embarrassing first of all to send an email inviting a bunch of people to a party and then saying sorry, the whites can't attend. I mean, that's obviously a screw up.
Yeah, I think anytime there's well, first of all, I don't understand why they couldn't have told everybody. I don't think it should have been a secret because there's nothing to be ashamed of. So it's embarrassing only because there was an effort, apparently, not to clue everybody into the existence of this party. If they had just announced, we're having this party, any other affinity group party that's happening, here's where you go if this is your interest, then that's that. But it's so laughable at this point. I mean, when I was at a law firm, first of all, none of the people of color wanted to be involved in any of this. The white heads of the law firm foisted responsibilities on those of us who weren't white, the very few of us who weren't white, to basically run these programs in these groups, often at the expense of the substantive work that we should have been doing. And so—
Well, that sounds terrible.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. So the idea that it's like it was ever people of color who are trying to have exclusive events as opposed to white people trying to basically whitewash the real structural barriers that exist for people within a lot of these institutions, including specifically what's known as the bamboo ceiling at law firms and a lot of corporate environments where despite having a lot of metrics on paper that would indicate their success, Asian Americans tend not to be promoted into partnership at as high rates. And I have heard a number of characterizations of their work that indicate that it's a perception of a cultural fit problem as opposed to anything substantive. And I do think that's a real issue. So in order to avoid having to deal with those real structural issues and frankly, deeply embedded implicit bias against people at their law firms, they tell us to organize like Thai cooking nights and have these kinds of parties and events. So I don't know. There's something that feels really rich to me about moving from a place where we have legal segregation and discrimination, and then we have de facto segregation and discrimination. We have ongoing cultural biases and economic disparities that exist within groups. And now when you eventually get what I think is the first Asian American mayor of Boston, she throws a holiday party, whether it's continuing those existing practices or because she wants to genuinely affirm and celebrate the diversity of her cabinet. Now we're being told that's anti-white by a bunch of people who never said a mumbly word about any discrimination against any other group in the history of America. But if people want to be mad at it, it's a free country and they can feel free to be mad on the internet.
Who never said anything about discrimination in America? What is that?
The libs of TikTok and the other people who are being critical of this event.
Okay, well, discrimination is wrong. This seems like an example of discrimination, and we can uplift minority voices and show support in an inclusive way. Seems like something we would prefer, especially for our elected political officials. If I'm going to be disinvited to a party, it can be because I'm lame, not because I'm like my skin color. I think that's how most people feel about these things, but interesting that this was highlighted, and we'll have more Rising right after this.
That was hilarious. Now, he seemed really uncomfortable after she was done explaining like the experiences that Black people go through and other POCs go through when they are within a, I don't know, snow-capped organization. I'll put it like that. I don't see the problem with this because it is keeping with the American brand. But Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is under fire for a no colorless people allowed party. I looked at the comments first because I already knew what was going to be down there, and there's a river down there, just a river of tears because they're in the comment section crying racism. And it never fails. It just never fails. And it's because they don't know what it is. Like, they keep throwing the word. It's just like woke. They don't even know what woke was. They couldn't even give you a definition of what woke was. And at the end of the day, at least Ron DeSantis had the balls to say Florida is where woke comes to die, which is Black people, which someone Black did die because someone heard Ron DeSantis' message and he got the message loud and clear. He went down there to kill woke. So I really do not understand how this could constitute discrimination when there are colorless only country clubs, colorless only dance classes, colorless only positions at 99% of the upper management positions. They are snow capped. There's colorless only neighborhoods. What in the world is the issue? I have a video that I did on Negro fatigue. That's what it's called. And it's where colorless people must run away from a neighborhood if a half Black person moves in. So now that POCs are having a party just for them, trying to say, okay, fine, you don't want to invite us, or it's always awkward when you do. Why don't we just throw something for us so we can be comfortable? Oh no. Oh my God. Colorlessness is not invited. Are you serious? It's giving creepy. It's giving stalker. It's giving give me 12 feet mandatory. Because it is. It's weird. It's like, okay, so you don't want us around. You're redlining. You are segregating in neighborhoods, pricing people out. You are fighting against affordable housing so you can keep certain people in certain tax brackets out because you're judging them. It's not everyone. And if there's a bad apple, you deal with it. But trying to act like people who are not blue eye and blonde hair, a part of the colorless group, are just renegades out here, or will mess up a neighborhood, or does more crime when the crime stats clearly says different. They also want to be a part of your energy and siphon off of your energy. There's nothing wrong with POC celebrating their own. I would just say go do colorless things, go have a colorless party, go to a colorless country club, go do colorless things in a park. I don't know. If you wanted to have a colorless only party, that would be the best. Because if all of the colorless people go to the colorless party for that day or night, then that's just going to leave everybody else not to have a confrontation or a Karen moment or an issue. That might mess up Dr. Richie's show for a day. Maybe not. Maybe he could use something else that he hasn't used. But I think it would give us a break if you had a colorless party. And it's crazy because it's a weird thing. And when they don't want to involve you in their spaces, they won't. And I feel more of this should happen where there are Black people and POCs that have parties and just get-togethers for themselves and shut them out. They always have to be around watching as if somebody's plotting on them. I approve this party. We need to be around people where we can be ourselves and we can have more fun and not care what someone's going to say or someone's going to think or someone's going to get offended or whatever. This is just fake outrage. Somebody said this is actual real racism, just like voting for a candidate based on their race. Real racism. Oh yeah, I did vote for Obama. I didn't think he was ever going to do anything, which he didn't do anything for Black people. But I mean, it wasn't going to happen. Please, they would have taken him and his family out. But this person says this is real race. How would you know? That's there is nothing above colorlessness that could dull out the discrimination, bigotry, and oppression. You have to have a system in place to make it work. You have to feel it. It has to affect your life. Kind of like there's a story that I'm going to do where there is a bank that is supposed to cater to veterans, and this man had a really great credit score of over 730, and he had a more than enough money for the down payment when he found the house, and they denied him. But he went to another bank and they approved him. And there was a story about another couple, and they were looking like, are you serious? There is no way that it would be possible to be able to deny them to get the house because everything was so good. Like, there was some confusion about that, and it's discrimination. It's discrimination, it's racism. I mean, I wish people would stop BSing and be serious. But no, they want to shut it down. They want to say they're experiencing it too. That means they don't care. So we as a people group, and we know we're going to have some rocket raccoons that, just they're going to be raccooning. But we as a people group really need to prioritize us and what affects us first instead of other people, instead of listening to other people thinking they're going to do right by us. They're not. So we need to be meaner. We need to be more exclusionary. I'm not talking about everyone, because if you start crying, obviously you do need to be excluded because you don't understand. Anybody who does not engage in this, they wouldn't be mad because they don't engage in it. The only reason you're mad about hearing this is because you engage in this behavior. But yeah, they're all up and down here claiming racist. They want to know what it feels like. I really wish I could make you feel it, because I would make you feel it in the worst way. I wonder if there's a niche, like, those people who, or the men who like to get beat by dominatrix, if there could be such a thing as to, for colorless people, if they want to feel discrimination, they have to pay to feel the discrimination since they want to know so bad. But I'll go ahead and leave it right here. Let me know what you thought about this. Did you understand her breaking it down? Because so many of us have been in corporate positions, and it drains your life force. You feel like you're around a bunch of parasites, especially the ones who have this attitude. And you know the attitude I'm talking about. But yeah, let me know. Do you think this party is offensive and discriminatory because it was a party that was celebrating the fact that this is their first Asian mayor, and the accomplishments of POCs? I don't see the problem with it. I think we should have more of it. But I'll go ahead and leave it right there. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.